Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Life's Podcast Videocast with Coach Les from Less is More Coaching. And today we are going to be discussing another of the 10 critical laws of relationship by Rob D. Thompson. And this one is the law of single purpose, which is the celebration of any relationship which is dependent upon the clear definition of purpose and vision. And a crucial factor in covenant relationship is the singleness of purpose. In a world where diversification and tolerance are concepts that are almost worshipped, the necessity for unification and singleness of purpose has nearly been lost. When God gave a prophet of old an assignment, he instructed him, write the vision and make it plain, that whoever reads it will take it up and run with it. The prophet was told to write it, not only to clearly imprint it upon his own mind and heart, but especially to lay down a roadmap for others. God desired that the purpose of his heart would reach those in distant places and would excite and motivate those in future ages and would not fall into oblivion. What is handed down by tradition and word of mouth is easily altered and liable to corruption. But what is written is reduced to a certainty and is preserved safe and pure. The prophet was told to write the vision and make it plain, right? Obviously, God thought it was extremely important that his vision, plan, and purpose be preserved and accurately communicated to faithful men and women who would carry it out with focus and excellence. He knew that the vision would affect not only those living in the present, but also countless generations to come. Now, as we bring this around, and as I was reading this, I wanted to bring this all and wrap it around what I call business today and how we can support business today. And in so doing this, Satan cannot arrange your demise, but he is the author of confusion. Division is simply two visions. And the Apostle Paul encouraged his friends that only when they, with one mind and one mouth, glorify God, would they see measurable success in their lives. The Greek word in this context is translated with one accord. It means to act in unity with one purpose, without contentions, clashes, or strife. It's not sufficient that there be one mouth, but there must also be one mind. For God looks at the heart. In fact, there cannot consistently be one mouth where there is not one mind. And God's purpose can only be realized where there is a fusion of both. So one of the things Paul later wrote to his family, he said, ... make me truly happy by agreeing wholeheartedly with each other, loving one another, and working together with one heart and purpose. The Greek word for be of one mind means to think the same thing in unity of heart, of feeling, of opinion, of plan, and of purpose, to move together as if only one soul was activating you. He wished them to avoid all division and strife, being united in one common cause. Now, if we relate this to business, the same thing happens in a company. If people are divided and are not in communication and not creating integrity in their communication, what happens? Division happens, and they go different ways. And the opportunity today, and what I want to share with and look at with people today is how do we and how can we look at this law of single purpose and step into some of the different places where we start to look at one common purpose. We look at the plan of attack, remaining unified, the ability to submit, right? If you go to work for a company, to be able to submit and be part of that, but not in a slave way, but in a way that says, I submit to this, I agree with it, I see the value, and I'm on board, and that's what I'm coming to work for. And the same thing happens in the Christian community, right? Submission is the willingness to bow my knee before men in order to satisfy the requirements of heaven. Now, plainly put, submission is no more than victory over self-will. A person with a submitted heart will be more interested in what his leader wants than what he wants. He knows that submission means I put my mission below our collective mission, or the way I look at it, I'm taking my mission and including it and having it be derived by and created by the mission of the company. So one of the things that I've created in my coaching is the ability to look at, no matter what you're doing, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're working for somebody, working in an organization, no matter what it is, to be able to look at your job. What's my vision? What's my mission? Who, what, why, how, where, when, all of those things. Because I'm a living, breathing entity, a wheel, a cog inside a wheel. So we'll causing what I call the multiple wheel. There's a great big wheel that turns, the wheel of the company, and there are many little wheels that support getting the big wheel running. And so inside of this, the ability to submit, the ability to serve, the ability to support, the ability to communicate. One of the things that we have the biggest problem with today in society. And why is that? Because people try to communicate. Notice I said the word try to communicate emotion by text messaging and by emails, which is a big, big no-no due to the fact that people interpret statements differently. Thus, the ability to understand. Then becomes for leaders the ability to encourage. It is not what is done to you that determines the outcome of your life. It is how you respond to injustice that determines your destiny. Now, why do I say this? Because as we look at this, there's the behind the scenes that happens in a business. Sometimes people go, well, I don't feel this is fair. Well, are you in communication? Are you understanding the purpose? Are you seeking the support that is available in your company when asked for appropriately, when created appropriately? Sometimes there's a level of pain and change that we have to be able to withstand inside of a company as it grows. It's like, wait a minute, I wanted to be the only guy working over here. And now look, there's a couple of guys, couple of girls, and there's like 6 of us here. I lost my peace and quiet. So some of these things being at that, having that ability. The celebration of any relationship is dependent upon the clear definition of purpose and vision. Now, I would love to hear, we're here today on several different platforms, and would love to hear from those of you that are here on stage on Clubhouse, what your thoughts are behind the law of single purpose and taking a look at how your view of the celebration of any relationship is dependent upon the clear definition of purpose and vision. How does that relate for you? What does that look like for you? And what do you see as possible? What do you see as available? What do you see as going on? And with that, I'm going to pass the mic over to you, Michelle. Hey, Michelle, you just muted yourself. You were already off mute.
Oh, I don't know. What was I gonna say? Well, you were talking about submitted, right, to other people.
Submission, yep. Submitting to, yep.
Submission and your purpose. Well, I was thinking the line is that your purpose is to do what God wants you to do, but also submit to the people around you, affirm them, make them feel good about themselves, talk to them wherever they're having their problems, coach them or whatever. I think that's what that means to me. Submit. I was just, when you're talking, I was just looking for that scripture about being submitted to one another. God wants us to be submitted to one another. It was give yourself to them. Help one another. Help your coworker. Help your spouse. Give yourself to them. You know, if someone needs a hand with food, you're submitted to them. You're helping them out. You know, that's my intake. I can remember people asking me, what does it mean to be submitted? I think one of it is being submitted to your husband, and you honor the people. You know, submit means you honor that person. Like you submit yourself to your husband, and it means you honor your husband. You affirm them. You affirm him. It goes well with everything, you know, your coworkers, your relatives, your children, you know. That's what it means to me, Coach.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle. And Cass, good afternoon. Are you able to share?
I can talk, yes. So, you know, I'm processing and multitasking at the same time. But I think the focus is to how do we learn to stay on the path and listen to the people in our ear that is correct, because it's so easy on this earth to get directed in a wrong way.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I know, right? But if you are surrounded by people who really are strong in their foundation, who really know what they're doing, those are the people you want to be around. And I have a funny story, kind of accent that. I was at the food bank today, and I met re-met some people incredibly that I know for a couple of years. And I'm not going to name their names, but they were telling me stories while we were waiting in line to go through the vegetable and fruit area. And they said something funny, and I got them totally. I totally understood what they were saying. But the person that was with me had no clue, and actually was very judgmental. Like I was like putting them up too high. And it kind of effed me off, because I was thinking, you don't even know these people. There are really, really good hard workers doing their job, and they're waiting in line. And the reason why you are here is because I'm making you now wait in line with them. You have no idea what your status is. So when you find out that good people know who they should be aligned with, that's where we need to keep continuing like our focus moving forward, and then get the rum raft crap out of our way, because those are the people that put you down, where we actually lift you up. I hope that makes sense.
Beautiful. Yep. Thank you. Emmanuel, what are your thoughts about the law of single purpose? Uh-oh. You came off of mute, but I can't hear you. Try one more time. Nope. So, hold on. I'm going to try one thing, Emmanuel. So watch, I'm going to put you in the audience and then bring you right back up. Let's try that. You'll see a green thing up at the top. There you go. Now try it. Nope. You may. So what you're going to have to do, Emmanuel, is step out of the room. So hit that leave quietly and then punch the button that says to come right back into the room. Five, four, three, two, one. Now try it. Yes.
Coach, I will not be
Perfect.
I will not be able to say anything now. I'm in transport. I'm in town. The place is noisy.
Oh, we can
So
hear
that
you.
is
We
why.
can hear you beautifully.
Coach. Coach, let me
We.
please for the moment.
Oh,
let
no
me give
worries.
news for
Okay.
now, please, sir.
No worries. Terrence. Go ahead, Terrence. Man, another sticky microphone. Terrence, if you're not able to come off of mute, it's a little button on the lower right-hand corner. Just touch it and the line will go away. If it doesn't go away, you might have to do the same thing that Emmanuel did, and that's hit the leave quietly button, and then hit, when you go into the hallway, hit the room again, and it'll bring you right back. All right, I'm coming to you, June.
Wow, can you hear me?
I can hear you beautifully. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So the question, let me just give you a quick update on the question. How's that?
Okay, that's great.
Because I know when you came in. So we're talking about the law of single purpose, which is the celebration of any relationship is dependent upon the clear definition of purpose and vision. So when we look at the ability to be with people, the ability to be with a company, the ability that is built on truth and love in one accord, you know, how do we look at that vision, not only biblically, right, which is what we are a lot of what we were talking about, but also job wise. See, and this is a perfect time for me to share this. Satan cannot arrange your demise, but he is the author of confusion. Same thing in business. Division, DI vision, is simply two visions. Truth, not error, must be at the core of our unity. Imagination is the discovery of options. Focus is the removal of options. So when we look at the snapshot of your future, it's taken with the people of your present. In life, there remains little left to be said, but much to be done. And a lot of this is the same thing in business. Submission remains lifeless until agreement breathes its final sigh. And submission is the willingness to bow my knee before men or women in order to satisfy the requirements of heaven. That there's also a submission, and there's also a submission that happens when we go to work for somebody. We submit to the rules of the company, the employee handbook, the employee benefits. It is not what is done to us that determines the outcome of our life biblically or our job. It is how you respond to injustices or what I consider in business, the things that happen in business that we look at that may not seem fair, that determine our destiny. in life and also in business. Now, faith boldly declares its dreams for the future, while fear finds its power from the past. So even in a business today, we have to be looking at what are our dreams, where are we going, what is our single purpose in a business. And I mentioned vision, mission, who, what, why, where, how, even for an employee. See, when we look at it that way, and for me as a coach, and I coach employees to have that view that they are an entity within the company, a cog in the wheel of the business. Just like we are in life, we are on this planet with religiously, all of this gives us such a powerful opportunity to look at this. So I hope that gives you a quick recap, June, and gives you an opportunity to share what your thoughts are.
What a beautiful recap that was, because I recently went to work, and so I've had to visit some of the very things that you're talking about. And what occurs to me is I am an individual who came into a place to make it hopefully better. And I do have to learn what the rules are, but then unfortunately sometimes rules are not being abided by. I'm learning things that may or may not be true for each of the employees around me. They may have gotten a little lax on what they're doing or redefined how those rules are interpreted. So now I have my own individual person that I bring to the table, because ultimately, we work for God. And when he sends us into a place, we want to make him proud of us with our integrity, the way we do business and how we handle ourselves and all of those things. But then how much compromise do you give if the rule book is not the guiding factor? Because over time people interpret and do things and compromise rules.
Big time, right?
Yeah. And so what you find out is they give you the playbook because that's one of the steps that has to be done. But then you find out whether or not they're playing themselves by the same book.
Yep.
And so now your integrity has to be your own. You have to own your integrity. And just how much of that are you willing to compromise? Because I work in finance, so I have to quickly decide where my delineators are. I have to know this. And most of the time at this stage of the game, I know them before I get to a place. What do they call it? Where you're out of the game, in a relationship, it's I forget what they call them, but where you're not going to do a certain thing. That's the thing that breaks it. The deal breakers. Yeah, you got to know what the deal breakers are, so you don't get caught up, in something that you have no idea you wanted to be caught up in. So I'll come in knowing what my deal breakers are, what my integrity deal breakers are. I've developed
non-negotiables.
Yeah, thanks to Coach Les, I have developed some integrity deal breakers. So I already know when I step into a place, if the gossip is going on, then maybe I want to go back to my office or leave the coffee clutch or whatever. I don't want to do that. So I already know those things about me. So it's not hard once you get your foundation set to know how far to go, even in business. And for me, the main thing is I'm here to help the situation if it can be helped. And I'm assuming it can. If God sent me into it, then I should be able to help. but that is it's a huge question, and it's a really good conversation. So thank you so much for allowing me to jump in on that.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. And with that, Terrence, are you able to pop off your microphone now? Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, sir.
All right, all right. I think I'm following the question correctly. This is talking about following the vision of a job.
Yep.
Something like that.
Single purpose, or the following the vision of what God wants for us as well, and how they relate side by side, and how we can use one to support the other.
Right. All right. Well, we all are created in Christ Jesus, fitly joined as one body. So, if that body is functioning as one, it'll cause problems with the rest of the body. So it's always important to, if you look at that in a physical sense, if your arm isn't doing what the arm's supposed to do, then that's going to cause some problems when you go to run or walk or lift something. So if you look at it from that standpoint, it's always important to be in unison with the body. So that carries over in business, church, or whatever. If every member is not following the vision or the order of the head, then things will just not work as it is intended. Excuse this background noise here.
Oh, no worries.
Stop, Tristan. So, yeah, that's my take on it. I don't think I'm gonna get too many words out after these little guys come in here.
Oh, it's all good, Terrence. Thank you so much. Appreciate you sharing.
Stop, Lex. It's gonna hurt him.
All right, Emmanuel, are you there? All right, I think he might still be on public transport. So good afternoon, Stephen. How are you, sir?
I am excellent. I was listening, and here's I'm going to share this. This came from a mentor of mine, and he talked about being in the workplace. And I thought about one story that was mine, but I'll keep another one that was related to a mentor story. This is a mentor story. He gave this to me. He said, "Oh, it's here's an example of how to bring your values into your situation." And this is a tough one because I'm not very good at this. So this is an in process one, because there's something that you're going, okay, I'm kind of at the top, maybe not the top of the mountain, because you don't think you're at the top of mountains on tough stuff. But this is one of those where I'm probably like maybe partially up the mountain and grasping this. But he said, look, one time I worked as a low level person in a restaurant. And he said, I just go and have to do whatever had to be done. Somebody did something, that whether it meant mopping the floor, whether it meant being a server, no matter what, host, whatever. And he said, everybody would end up leaving same time. And so bottom line, he gets to a point where, okay, then there's a day where he has to do cleanup, and the floors are cleaned up, messed up, and, all these problems. And so he's doing the cleanup, has the floor completely cleaned up. And so he talks about this. So he's got the floor completely cleaned up. He's working in a restaurant, being the fill-in person to do whatever needs to be done. There's a name for it. I forget what that's called. But he's working in a restaurant, being the fill person for whatever needs to be done. Just finished cleaning up, and just on time to get everything. Everybody out on time from the restaurant, because everybody would get to leave when everything was cleaned up. So you had the floor cleaned up, everything's ready. So lo and behold, the person comes in, drops a big messy plate of stuff, a whole plate of stuff on it, on the floor, and gives them the look like, well, you're going to clean that up, right? And and then it gets worse. It gets worse. He said, that's not the part where it's offensive and where he had to bite his tongue. He said, where he had to bite his tongue, he says, that was hard to bite my tongue there. So the really hard part is when the owner comes in, looks at it and says, why is the floor messy? And he said, in that instant second of do you respond and defend yourself, or are you working as unto the Lord? And he says you have to become unoffendable. Now I'm not good at unoffendableness yet. I'm not there. I think if that happened, I'd probably say, hey, look, this person is spilled and I'm going to clean it up. I don't know if I'm at the point where I have to say nothing. And I thought about it, and I thought, you and I have been in the same community. And I thought, what if you had a community of people that were unoffendable? Like when somebody dumps the plate of food on the floor, that you be unoffended by it. When the leader says, oh, what about this mess right on there on the floor? And you had a community of unoffendable people. I don't think it exists. I don't know if it exists in this world, because I think there's a natural instinct to defend ourselves. But he went through and said, God's our defender. And, you have to, if you're really working as unto the Lord, you don't have to state your case to the owner at that point. You can trust the Lord's going to make it work. And I'm like, that's a bunch for me. But I think that's what it looks like. But I don't see it reflected in the world as who are the people that can have the plate dropped by somebody else. Have the person basically say, hey, you're going to clean this. And it's like you're already right at the time. Everybody's getting ready to leave. And then the owner walks in, looks at that, and looks at it like you didn't do anything. And do you make your case, or do you just do it? And how often can you bite the bullet? I think in the natural world, they just call it biting the bullet, being a team player. But there's even words for it. There's like bite the bullet for the team, take one for the team, being a team player. I don't know what the Christian word is for that. Maybe somebody else has it. But I think the secular word has probably clearer things for it than the Christian world would. I mean, it's called maybe going the extra mile. That word like submit, oh goodness, I don't know if that one works anymore. But if there's a biblical word for the person is biting the bullet, taking one for the team, being a team player, sucking it up. I don't know what that's called, being the person that's in charge of cleanup your overtime. Somebody just dumps it, gives you the look like, hey, why didn't you clean this up? But that's kind of what I'd add to the conversation, because maybe I can learn something here. I'm done talking.
Awesome, Stephen. Well, I'm going to chime in before Joey does, because I know Joey's, if he's able to talk, is going to be chomping at the bit, since we both have you picked a great example, Stephen, since both Joey and I have 40 years or so in the restaurant business. And for me, when that happens, it's not even a thought process. It's all hands on deck to clear that off the floor. It doesn't matter who's done it, because at some point we either have all done it, or we're going to do it, or it's going to happen. And in the restaurant, the faster we can get it up and moving and out of there, the faster we can go back to everybody, clicking and moving in synchronicity and creating an amazing experience for everybody in the restaurant, including the employees. And this is just such a perfect example, because I remember my first foray into having that happen. And I went, I immediately attacked with, don't be clumsy. You've got to watch when you're walking around. 2 years later, coming over and just grabbing a broom or something, or some way to scoop up the mess, and diving in and listening to that person go, because the minute we all start cleaning, they become apologetic. And when the owner comes in, the owner just sees us cleaning and working. What I think is so paramount in this is that there is this opportunity for community to step up in a way that there is a harmony that exists in the restaurant. And when that happens, it interrupts the flow. So the faster all and any hand on deck can clear that up, the faster the harmony can return to the flow, even if it's at the beginning of the restaurant, the beginning or before opening. And, my background working and being a leader of the Self-Expression Leadership Program for Landmark Education. And the biggest lesson that I had to learn as a leader up in the front of the room, with anywhere from 50 people in the room to 400 people in the room, is that no matter what somebody said, shouted out, or responded, my goal was to remain untriggerable, i.e., to see the statement that somebody makes, experience myself reacting, set the reaction aside, and then speak with a pure and clean heart to that person to support them in having a transformation, a breakthrough from a breakdown, and or being responsible for the trigger that it may have caused. And what I learned to do was to speak my trigger when they pushed that quote unquote red button by having happen what happened. I would notice it, and I would then take a moment and say, how many people just got triggered by what just happened? And hands would fly up everywhere. And I would say, great, that's the autonomic response from the amygdala, that part of our brain that is fight, flight, survival. And look how many people responded to what he or she said. Now, the question is, how many of you got offended? Half the hands would stay up in the air. How many of you felt emotionally connected to the person? The other half would come up. Then the question was, how quickly could you allow that, the single purpose of being there, for transformation to happen for people to have a breakthrough in that training and development environment, and stand in a place where that person could be perfect, whole, and complete the way they are and the way they are not, and allow them to travel through whatever they had to travel through after saying what they said. Does that communicate, Stephen?
Yeah, it was, yeah, I think you're putting the triggering part aside. It was almost making like this mental note, and I was grabbing a pen and seeing, could I do that? Because I think in society, we don't have a lot of examples of unoffendable people in leadership. And this was a person that was serving, unoffendable as serving. Because I think in the serving part, it's even more easily to be offended. It's like, oh, wait a minute, you're not paying me enough to deal with this. A leader can go, well, I'm responsible for these people. I'm going to make this much more money, so I may have to step it up. But being in the serve part where he could be offended, he could be offended, I think that's at another level of being non-offendable. And it's being unoffendable, I think, is so rare, but I think it's so valuable. And it does make me think, I said, what if I can start embodying that more? What difference could it make? And I think it would move, touch, and inspire a whole lot of people if it can be done. I've never seen it done, but I believe it's possible, but I've never seen it done. I want to hear what Joey has to say, even the restaurant thing. That's why I brought it up. I knew that I saw Joey next to me, and I saw the thing, and I remembered, and I'm like, oh, he's going to have something to add on this, I'm sure. So I didn't know you were in it that long too, but I'm done.
Yeah, and before I do that, one of the things to me that there were many times that we had people that were with special needs, doing dishwashing, doing cleaning, doing bus work. And it's where I fell in love with people with special abilities and Down syndrome and some of these special needs people, because these things would happen. Like you said, somebody would drop something and they would come over immediately with a smile on their face, like, you just gave me work. You just created my purpose for being here. And I learned from them, Stephen. That was the other thing that came to my memory, is to watch how they interacted. Like, I would get more upset at the people than they would. And they were the ones cleaning up. And so that's the other thing I wanted to share as well. So with that, Joey, I'm going to pass it to you.
Hey, I unfortunately just came back into the car. I was in front of a customer, but I did catch the tail end. So I'll just kind of pick up where I think you guys may have been talking about. And I heard and it wasn't really in the restaurant industry. So I'm really not sure where you guys were going. But I had a student of mine when I was a student pastor, who had a disability, verbally and even physically from time to time. He couldn't do anything. He also had a little bit of a hearing disability, and I was able to utilize him, and so did his father too. His dad had the whole family had some disabilities, and I was able to utilize his dad as a volunteer, and I was also able to create a space where the student who went through the student ministry was now out of the ministry, but still wanted.
And with that, I'm going to put a creation pause to the end of Coach Les and the Life's podcast and video cast with Coach Les. And we will be back again next Monday. Hope you enjoyed this part and look forward to seeing you again.